How you all doing today? And welcome to the Mac, Jack, and Jim Big Football Show. Welcome
Good
to
morning.
the Mac. Good morning. Welcome to the Mac and Jack and Jim Jeffco Big Football Show. This morning, Jack won't be in with us. He's doing his 3-day wedding thing. I didn't know wedding is 3 days long, but he also won't be on tonight's Monday night show either, folks. If you watch JMB,
Wow.
Frank Laterza will have a special guest host. We had Byron Williams for a minute, but he's taking care of some ticket business right now. So me and Jim are opening the show, and we'll have our guests on. We have Keith Angle coming on. We have Robert Butler who will be on today, the Philly sports guy. We also will have on a treat for you guys in the 9 o'clock hour. We have Chris Olmsted from Coffee and Sports. A great show that's on Roku morning show on our morning show on Roku channel Monday through Thursday, and we'll also have on Super Cowboy who will be on this week. And Jim will have a friend this morning on the show, so that'll be good for Jim. Anyway, he can talk to somebody about the Cowboys. And there's a Byron Williams coming back in. Good morning, Byron. Good morning, everybody. How you doing today?
Good morning. Good morning. And those tickets have been sent.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
But also, as you notice, I'm wearing a lot of
Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
17.
I used to beat up on those guys.
Yeah, I know you used to beat up on everybody, Byron. You're a bully, but but they won 24-17. This is their fourth Grey Cup, which is the Canadian version of the Super Bowl. And it's going to be in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, which is 40 minutes away from Toronto and about 45 minutes away from Buffalo.
Perfect. It will be. And for those of you who don't know, Jim Jeffco's son plays on the team. That's why he's so excited. He's not just excited for Winnipeg. His son is also playing on the team. So
he had sacks yesterday. They had 9 sacks. He had 2 of them. He should have had 2 more. You know, if it was me, I would have had 4. But yeah, it is what it is.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
That's right. So anyway, folks, as you see, Byron is filling in for Jack Hirsch today, and me and Byron already talked about this Friday, Jim. We talked about the Thursday night game where we had the Bears against Carolina. So I want to get your thoughts on it a little bit. Quarterback Brown played as well as the undrafted free agent over there with the Bears. And you know how I feel about Bryce Young. What do you think about Bryce Young's play so far and playing for an owner, Jim, that's not very patient?
I think it's difficult and I've said this, I think Bryce Young is going to be all right. But just like Alabama, you're going to have to surround him with exceptional talent. And the problem is they don't have a first-round pick this year. If you realize Chicago has their first-round pick. And they got to get more talent, especially on offense. And especially, we've been talking about this frequently, is the offensive line is big these days because it's harder to find offensive linemen that could immediately come in and play. You know, the big ones are usually top 10.
Well, Jim, he's not in a position. Like I said, I don't think he's going to be a franchise quarterback, in my opinion, anyway. But he's got a new head coach. He's got he's brand new. He's not on a real good. He's not on a bad team, but he's not on a I would say a stay strong team. He's not on a competitive team right now. And there's already rumors that. Jim, there's already rumors that the Carolina head coach might be leaving if something happens to Bill Belichick, right? Am I hearing it right?
I think that was Washington that was looking at him. And I've heard that too, that Belichick and them, they're going to mutually agree to separate. But with this guy is not a bad player. It's just the system is probably not geared toward his abilities. That's just my opinion.
And real quick before I bring up
I think too, this is the time where you find the sheets from the billy goats. I mean, you find the true players that gonna work hard and gonna be able to come in and bring success to the team. And then the coaches, you got some coaches that's not shouldn't be probably in the program as well. So you know, and Carolina's real close. I think they're real close to being very competitive.
Yes.
But they shouldn't be getting beat. They shouldn't be 1-8 right now. I think they should be, probably win 2 or 3 more games. Probably they should have done that.
Yes.
Well, good morning, Keith Engel. Glad to have you in here, Keith Engel from TGI Sports. And that's something you'll never hear from Jack. They're separating the sheep from the billy goats, Keith. That will never be come out of Jack's mouth.
Good morning, guys. Listen, is Jack
Good
still
morning,
on? Is this a lifetime suspension or what?
For Harbaugh?
It's some kind of.
Oh, Jack.
No,
Jack.
we're not talking about him yet. But Jack, no, Jack hasn't been suspended. It's some kind of I don't know. It's I don't know. It's a thing that the weddings in the Hirsch family, they last for a week. I'm not sure what happens there, but I'm not sure what goes on with Jack's home there. But anyway, good morning, Rick.
Good morning, Rick.
Yes.
Good morning, Rick.
Yes, sir. So Rick Sherlock, our most loyal fan on the
Who you talking to, Byron or Keith? My name is Keith too. I'm Byron Keith.
Are you?
Well, see,
I didn't know that. Awesome.
well,
Well, at least I like one, Keith.
well,
I
Byron.
just mixed the name. That's all.
Well, Byron, we're going to try and keep that separated so we don't talk over each other. Okay, so we'll try and make sure we call you Byron and Keith. Keith, let's get into the college football games. Okay, some interesting games. Georgia, I still think is number 1 in the country. They won 52-17 over a good Mississippi team. I mean, they just destroyed them. I mean, I know Ohio State had some Big Ten wins when Notre Dame was good and all other teams are okay. But to me, Georgia's still number 1, Keith.
Absolutely. I mean, I kept them number 1 in my own playoff rankings because until you beat your number 1, and it really doesn't matter at this point anyway. This will play itself out. But Georgia has gotten better pretty much all year. Now Alabama also, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit, they're getting better. Brock Bauer back yesterday for Georgia. That was a big lift for them. And Lane Kiffin, as much as I like Lane Kiffin, still looking for a signature win. He cannot beat. He's like James Franklin of the SEC.
That's what I was still mentioning.
He can't beat Alabama or Georgia.
I'll tell you the team that
is very
Gary, Keith, is Michigan. Michigan is, I'm telling you, they're on a mission.
They are on a mission. They rallied around their coach and the program itself. I mean, the way this whole thing came, and we can get into that when you want to, Mac. I don't want to jump into the whole thing, but
Good morning, Bo.
okay.
if you decide to go, we'll go there, but I'll run the show.
Good morning, Bo. Without Jack in here, Jim has to fill in for him and just go totally off format. So Keith, Michigan beats Penn State. It wasn't by a lot. They ran the ball the whole second half. They didn't throw the ball at all, and the coach broke down and just.
I can tell you, if you watch the game,
and the coach. Yes.
Yeah. If you watch the game, I mean, the score didn't indicate how much Michigan won that game by. They didn't have to throw the ball in the second half because they were just dominating them on the ground. So another flop by Penn State, Penn State.
And may I speak?
Wait, after asking this, the floor is yours, Jim. What do you think about the coach there crying at the end of the game? I mean, I know it's emotional, but I've coached some big games before. But I never wallowed like that before. That was kind of weird to me.
It was a little weird, but there's a lot of emotion going around that program, and sometimes you just lose it. And I'm sure he didn't plan on that happening, and it probably just hit him. It probably just hit him at the end of there. He's a good coach. He'll be a coach himself here pretty soon. Maybe there. We don't know. But this whole everything surrounding around. That's the thing. This is a very veteran team, and this is not going to hurt them. This is going to galvanize this team, and you saw some of that yesterday, I think.
The way they built Michigan right now, and the Harbaugh did, they are a bully team, and by that I mean they're an SEC because they are extremely physical.
Yeah, they are.
They wear you down physically, and they just keep grinding on you. The quarterback is what they said was a 4.4 guy. He can run, and McCartney, and I mean they do physically. They beat you up.
The speed is what always hurt the Big Ten, Michigan specifically, against the SEC, is they've never been able to match the speed. But maybe they're there now or close enough.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting when Ohio State and Michigan play. I would still pick Michigan.
Right today, I would
know.
too. Even though I picked Ohio State to get in the playoff, I would pick Michigan if I have to pick it today.
Florida State, Keith, beats Miami. A real good game. Florida was down or tied at the half. I'm not 100% sure, but they ended up getting ahead in a big play on defense. The Florida State's a good team. I just don't think that they can win the championship, Keith.
Well, we're going to find out. This is a good year for Michigan, for Florida State, because the SEC's down. I mean, Georgia's playing well, Alabama's playing down, but it's not those vintage Georgia and Alabama teams we've seen of late. So if somebody else is going to win, this is the year to do it. Florida State's a well-rounded team in my mind, well coached. They played big. They came up big when they needed to last night. Give Miami kudos for playing hard. And they benched Van Dyke for this game. He had to come in late after an injury, but Hurricanes play tough. But they just, the Florida State finds ways to win games.
And it looks like the Pac-12 at this time is going to get a team in, so that's the advantage to Michigan, or like you said, Florida State, to get to the championship game, because one of them will probably play them.
Yeah, I would say that's true. I'd be shocked if the Pac-12 doesn't get a team this year. So
yeah.
Yes, Rick, I did see that hit. That was a heck of a hit. So we have Washington. Speaking of out west here, we have Washington winning 35-28 over Utah, and Oregon beating USC 36-27. Two real good teams, Keith. I hope Oregon gets in the playoffs this year. I think Oregon could pull up upset. I think they're that good. In fact, I think they may be the only team that might be able to beat Georgia, to be honest with you.
Well, a lot of people think they're playing better than anybody in the country right now, but I can't rank them ahead of Washington because they lost to them. So until they beat them, which they'll likely get a chance to do here in a few weeks.
Yeah, in the Pac-12 championship game, the last Pac-12 championship game.
Yeah. Well, maybe Oregon State and Washington State will play each other every year for the championship. But it'll be an interesting rematch because Washington's not playing as good as they were previous to that or last Oregon game. Yeah. So,
speaking of that, Keith, did you see what happened with Washington? The guy intercepts it and drops the ball before he gets in the end zone.
Yep.
And that was not good.
I thought of Leon Lett at that moment.
I did too.
Wow. All right. Way to connect the dots. I like that. Ohio State beats Michigan State 38-3. Michigan State is not what it was, Keith. And, maybe they won't be for a while again. They have to reset that program.
Yeah. The problems surrounding that program are many, and it's going to be very ugly here for months to come as they battle out this lawsuit over Mel Tucker and what money he's going to get or not get. So
I disagree. I think Michigan State can come back relatively fast if they get the right head coach.
Well, if they get the right head coach with the transfer portal today, I mean, you can rebound.
Exactly. And they have a strong alumni system.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
But again, with the stuff that's going to be surrounding here, it's not going to be pretty. These
no.
These courtroom battles and the news that's going to keep coming out of this story. Is somebody of worth going to want to go there? Is the question, coach wise.
That is true. But there are always coaches that want to go.
Yes,
yeah,
I agree.
That opportunity. Shamar Moore, he might be here. What we said.
Yeah.
Bo Crouch was happy about that.
Connecticut for a minute there. Sorry, I know that he's out there in Washington. For a second, I thought you meant Connecticut.
Oh yeah, you can. I think UConn should schedule Georgia and Alabama next year as one of their teams too, just to get.
I tell you, another team that's quiet that nobody's talking about. They beat Tennessee. Is Missouri is playing.
Missouri played well. Tough loss last week at Georgia. Kind of.
But that's to be expected.
Yeah, because they can't get to the SEC championship game, likely. So, but this is a good football team, and they're gonna get a good bowl game on New Year's Day. So, a lot of people get to see them. Played really well yesterday against Tennessee. Good Tennessee team.
Yeah,
we'll always we'll always have that debate. We'll have that debate probably later on in the year. Was the bowl games mean anything anymore? But for right now, that'll take up the whole show, so we won't go there. TCU gives Texas all they can handle. Texas gets by them 29-26. Keith.
Texas ahead of this game like 29-3 at halftime, or 20. Yeah, 20, and they barely they don't score a point in the second half.
Yeah,
and Texas has had this issue for a lot of the year. They've struggled in the second half of games.
Well, they did it the week before with Kansas State, correct?
Yeah, they let them back in. They had to win in overtime, and boy, I tell you, it's going to be interesting because there's scenarios where Texas can still make the playoff, and maybe no SEC team gets in, but Texas has got to look better and win out. Besides, and
I agree.
That
Big 7 right now.
Yeah, the Big 12 takes another hit strength-wise with Oklahoma State getting blown out yesterday.
By UCF, yes.
Bad loss for Oklahoma State.
I agree. Alabama 49, Kentucky 21. Alabama, they got a quarterback now, Keith. We talk about Georgia and Alabama. Well, all these other teams. Listen, they didn't peak yet. They're just starting to peak. It's getting near the end of the season. This is when the good teams start peaking. And I still think in the end it's going to be Georgia and Alabama. I hate it, but I still think that's what's going to end up happening.
I don't think they can both get in the playoff, so I don't think that can. In the SEC, yes, but I don't think they can both get in the playoff. I don't think it's maybe, but depends on what happens in some other games. But I don't think so. Milroe yesterday responsible for 6 touchdowns, so great game for him. He's been getting better and better and better. He's moved into the peripheral of the Heisman talk. He's probably not going to have a chance to move up too far, but he's at least when you look at the gambling sites where they have the odds, he's moved up into the top 6 now.
Mm-hmm.
Played really well.
Let me give you and Jim a scenario. Let me give you and Jim a scenario where this happens. Alabama plays Georgia. Alabama beats Georgia, but just barely by 2 points or 1 point. I think they both get in.
Well, it depends on what happens elsewhere, though. I mean, if Washington's undefeated, they're going. If Florida State's undefeated, they're going. If Ohio State or Michigan's undefeated, they're going. So there's 3 spots right there. So it all depends on other games.
Let me ask you
believe that. You really believe Washington would get it over Alabama or Georgia?
Undefeated, absolutely. They cannot take a one-loss Alabama over or one-loss Georgia over the loser of the SEC. I'm saying over a champion Washington. They can't do it. Undefeated, can't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, but they took. And what I was going to say is Kansas State beat TCU last year in the championship game, and they still took TCU. So,
but the situations were different too. You didn't have all these undefeated teams that were they didn't take them over a undefeated.
Yes.
Power.
No, but I'm agreeing with you though.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you.
So Keith, your Patriots.
Byron's still shocked. So got the name is me.
Well, my team. I don't have a college team, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. Byron doesn't have a college team.
Down there in your area, I think you should adopt SMU. They're playing really good football right now.
Yeah. I was at the game from Friday night. One of my good friends, Russell Maryland's son, RJ Maryland, he's a tight end. He'll be a high draft choice in a couple of years. He had a great game.
Listen, it's going to be a great race for that group of 5 New Year's Day bowl game slot because you got Tulane, who's been struggling. They're still only got 1 loss to Ole Miss, but struggling the last few weeks.
Yeah, they almost got beat by Tulsa. Yeah,
they got a 3-way tie, undefeated at the top of that American Conference with Texas San Antonio there as well.
Yeah, UTSA. Yeah, which is a relatively
getting on to the game today. Your thoughts of Mr. Mustache versus Mac and Cheese. What do you think is going to happen there today over in Germany?
Mr. Mustache. Interesting. He should be starring in a 70s porn film or something, I think, Gardner will.
Wow. I'm going to leave that one alone.
Well, Jack's not here. Somebody's got to be off the wall here.
Yeah.
Not that I saw any of those movies. I just heard about them. Listen, I don't put – it's hard to put stock in either one of these quarterbacks. Gardner Minshew plays good for periods of time and even whole games, but he doesn't put any consistency together. This is as bad a matchup as they could have sent to Germany right now. I think they may not let us come over.
I honestly feel better about the Patriots than I do.
Yeah, look, I have felt good about them the last few weeks, and I thought they could get back in this race after they beat Buffalo. That loss last week was just atrocious. The rumors swirling around Belichick, I do not think they'll. I don't think they do him the disservice of dismissing him during the season. But there's a lot of talk that if they don't look good today, things could change on a dime here tomorrow. So it's going to be interesting 24 hours.
Do you think he would continue to coach?
I flip-flop back and forth, but I do because there are situations out there that he may jump at. I don't know why he'd jump at a rebuild in Washington. I don't know why he'd jump at a rebuild in Chicago. But there was some strong conversation earlier when he first started the talks first started about him probably not coming back. Was San Diego was a spot that was interested in him, and he would be interested in because they have a franchise quarterback and they got a lot of talent on both sides of the football out there. And maybe coaching has been their issue there. I'm not a big fan of Staley, and a lot of people in LA aren't either. But that'd be an interesting scenario. So, you know what, Mac? I don't think he'll come back just for the sake of coaching. I think it'll depend on the situation.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would think that he would even wait a year or two if he wants the coach to get that right situation. I don't think he's going to hurry just to coach again. I don't think so. So
well, you can't wait too long when you're 7 years old.
He wasn't. Oh, I think he could wait 2 or 3 years and still come back, Keith, and still. Man,
70. What is it? 72?
That's a long way. If you wait a couple of years, it's a lot of things change the game in 2 years. Plus, you're 73 years old.
Marv Levy came back, if you remember.
Yeah.
So, and he was in his late 70s.
And so has yeah. I just think Bill Belichick will be wanted by some team, even if he takes a couple of years off to get the right situation.
Listen, so, I read a rumor last night. I read an interesting rumor last night. Don't know how. Again, I didn't really check out the source too close because I was half asleep. But rumor of Jerry Jones moving on from McCarthy and bringing in Bill Belichick. That'd be an interesting.
It would not shock me.
Yeah,
that's when I would go to the Cowboys game.
It's what?
That's when I would go to the Cowboys game when that happened.
Yeah, but the only thing you worry about is, and Jerry, I'm sure, is thinking about this. He had a difficult time with Parcells, and Belichick is a Parcells tree guy.
Yeah,
yeah, but he did win some games
and
with Parcells.
And would Belichick want to follow Parcells there too? That would be another question of mine. But Keith, let's get to your picks, buddy, because I want to get you on record here, and we'll see if you can.
How did we do last week? I never saw the record of last week's. How did we do last week? Do you have that?
It was up. I posted it. You're just not paying attention. You're still in first. You're still in first. You went 3-1.
Oh, look at that.
I went 3-1, but was Jack threw the red flag on me.
Jeez,
I went 2-2. Keith, you went 2-2. I went 2 and something. Jack went. Jim went 2-2. Linda went 4-0.
I go on my show and brag that I'm tied for first, and I get ridiculed because I'm tied with a boxing specialist, for crying out loud.
Well, at least you're not behind him. So what do you got, Keith?
I have in the favorite column. God, I can barely read my writing anymore. I have the Ravens. God, now I got to look because I can't read my writing. Isn't that terrible? I'm getting to that age. I can't read my writing. I had the Ravens. I got the Steelers.
You got the Steelers, all right.
North.
Have the. I know I took that game away, so it's up here somewhere. Bengals.
All NFC, AFC, and North teams. Yeah. Who's your underdog, Keith?
My underdog will be the aforementioned LA Chargers today, getting points at home.
Right.
3 points at home.
All right.
Lions haven't traveled all that well, I don't think.
Well, let me give you my picks real quick. I'm taking Jim's Atlanta Falcons -1.5, Pittsburgh -3. Seattle -6. And my underdog is the Las Vegas Raiders. What do you got, Jim?
I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills over the Broncos at 7. I had, like Keith, I had Pittsburgh over Green Bay. And
Okay.
I still like Tampa Bay over Tennessee. I think Tennessee's in a rebuilding.
Okay, and your underdog will come later. Jack's picks are Pittsburgh -3, Dallas -16.5, the Colts -1.5. Linda has the Colts -1.5, Pittsburgh -3, San Francisco -3, and she has the Vegas Raiders also as their underdog. Byron, you got your picks ready? We'll give you your picks.
I'm taking Bill Belichick. I'm taking the Pats.
But that's an underdog pick, right?
Okay.
That's an underdog pick,
Yeah.
That's an underdog pick. Okay.
Your underdog, 3 favorites. It's not like it's not your week show over there where you got just pick.
Okay. All right. I'm taking the Cowboys.
That's a lot of points, Byron.
Wow. I don't care. I'm taking the 49ers.
All right.
And I'm taking Pittsburgh.
All right, Pitt. So we got Byron's official favorite, 3 favorites and underdog. And I shouldn't even ask you your underdog. Well, you gave the underdog. I can't help that. You weren't sure.
Maybe Byron could give the team some luck today.
Maybe so. Keith,
I will not anymore this year.
Yeah, I'm the same way with the Giants. Keith, real quick on I know you got to get out of here, but if you got a quick minute and a half or something, what do you think about Jim Harbaugh?
Look, from the beginning, I felt, and I'm not condoning cheating. I don't condone cheating. As I've had this argument on my college football show a lot. I don't condone cheating, but everybody does this stuff. They all are trying to get an edge. And it's, to me, I see a lot of a selective enforcement. I think the timing of the ruling that came down Friday was interesting because he doesn't have time to go get himself an injunction or court order so he can coach. This is all calculated because he's Jim Harbaugh, and people don't like Jim Harbaugh, and they want Jim Harbaugh out of the college NCAA football. That's what I think. I mean, let
me give you one other thing to think about. Keith, let me give you one other thing to think about, because one thing people aren't talking about, I talked about in a debate show yesterday when I debated myself, the ramifications of this. If you're going to do this to Michigan, and you got an SEC conference, the conference over there, wanting another good team, and you're going to mess around with Michigan, the Big Ten might lose Michigan. They may be sitting back in their chops right now saying, go ahead, Big Ten, do whatever you want to find them, do whatever you want to them. We'll take them in.
That's a good point. Listen, my whole take on this has always been they go and decide. It was the same way with the Patriots in the NFL. You decide who you want to go and chase, because you could go find evidence against anybody if you want to. I guarantee you.
Very true.
Guarantee you. Supposedly, there's evidence about Ohio State and Rutgers helping Purdue last year with Michigan signals before the game. So,
yeah,
this
was all orchestrated by Ryan Day's.
Yeah.
Brothers or cousins or something like that.
So again, there's a difference between saying, yeah, cheating's okay. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, look, the playing field's fairly equal here in my mind. Most people are looking for this type of edge, and the NCAA just enforces their rules against who they decide to do so. Similar to the NFL.
All right, one last thing, Keith. Are they going to put the microphones on the coaches and the earpieces in the quarterbacks' ears so they have no more problems with this? What do you think?
They have to. There's zero reason not to do it. I don't understand why we haven't moved into the 21st century now, or maybe even the 20th century. The NFL's or the NCAA moves so slow on everything. This should have been done years ago. There's no reason not to. So yes, I would think maybe as soon as next year you'll see this.
All right, Keith. And with TGI Sports, he's over on his site. Check him out. And Keith brings you a lot of good stuff. Great show, Keith. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thank you, Keith.
Guys, have a great Sunday.
See you, Keith.
Bye-bye. See you, Byron.
So there you go, Keith Engel. our college expert, our college expert who comes in every week with us. And
Jim, don't try to change your middle name to Keith.
Trust me, I'm not.
So, Byron, every Sunday, I'm not sure how much you tune into the Sunday morning football show. If you don't, shame on you. We have a guy that comes in here, and he does pretty good. His name is he's a sharp dressed man.
He is.
He looks a little bit like he's cool. This guy is cool.
Really?
That's right. So every Sunday, 8:30, we have our big story man, Robert Butler, comes in.
Morning, guys.
NFL big stories. How you doing,
Okay,
Robert?
hey, Byron, that's how you should dress.
What?
Yeah.
Man, you making me feel
Every
bad.
Every show. Yes, you see that he's got the new tie on. He's got that new. Look at that tie too. I mean, that tie is sharp. It's not a plain blue. It's got like some designs on it. I mean, this guy comes in every way, not just with the news.
And he does this all in the van.
He dresses in a booth.
Staying down by the river, guys. No, I'm kidding.
Let me straighten my suit up. Jim, let me straighten my suit up.
Yeah, you're gonna have to straighten up.
You have to.
Yeah, you can straighten up that sweatshirt. Robert, we always bring Robert in with some of the big stories. To me, I know a lot of people, might get tired of me talking about this. What are your thoughts on CJ Stroud over there? I mean, not CJ Stroud, Bryce Young over there in Carolina, Robert. What's going on there?
Well, he's maybe get him some little bit more protection, help the skilled players around him. You sent me something about Stroud. I'm thinking, I thought you were asking about that S2 test Stroud took back in April. So I was looking that up, Mac. He proved that test wrong.
I was going to bring that up.
One of the hottest quarterbacks ever at the start of his career, but he looks to be the better player. He's the bigger player, like we said. Most of us said on this program. Young is very accurate, Bryce Young. He's there is some concerns about his frailty and whatnot, and we're going to have to let it play out. I mean, you've already invested a first overall pick with him. David Tepper, that owner, he is highly competitive, and he seems to be lacking patience. But this league you have to have some level of patience in this league. You're never going to get anything done. And he's finding that out the hard way.
Well,
do you think? Go ahead. I'm sorry, man.
He hasn't had patience yet, Robert. He's fired everybody. He's got rid of players.
and he may fire Frank Wright this year, one and done.
That might happen. In fact, there's news over there that Frank Wright might be moving on to some other team after season, but it's a rumor right now, so I ain't going to bring it up. The point I'm making is when you play for an owner like this, how can you build a team? Why would you bring on a young quarterback in that situation? Why not stick with a vet? Why even draft a young quarterback if this is what this owner is like? If this owner wants to win right away, why is he drafting young quarterbacks? Why is he bringing in young players? Why not bring vets and try to get a team going right away? I just don't understand the game plan over there.
Yeah, I think his he's probably had some football people explain that to him, saying, "Listen, coach, you get a rookie, a quarterback on a rookie contract. We stack the team around him. Let's try to get that Super Bowl in this first 4 years." That's kind of been the recipe over the last 5-6 years, and it's a recipe at least for playoff success. And you're right, maybe that's what he'll do next, Mac.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, Robert, and I've talked to this about people. Venture capitalists are taking over all these programs, like obviously in the professional sports, and that's dangerous because their philosophy, you see, with the Mets, is different from the old school owners.
Yeah,
their philosophy is totally different, and it's disrupting the whole flow. And that's going to, because Seattle will be up for sale in 2025, and the only ones that can afford it is venture capitalists. They only the ones that have the money, and they have to see. Obviously, they got to make money because they have stockholders.
Right. And Cohen, that's the same thing I said with him. Look at what the Yankees did. I mean, you got to build your core players first, then add the stars. Don't add the stars and then build your core players. I talked about that with Keith Engel many of times.
Yeah.
Jim, that's a great point. There's not football people in place anymore. There's more business people in place
they don't
now.
Understand how to build a team properly.
Right, and they don't even understand how to hire a correct GM or it just works its way down. Cincinnati Bengals may be in a little trouble, Robert. I think they're favored today, but T. Higgins is out, and right now their other receiver, Lamar Chase, he might be out too. Isn't that right?
Yeah, he's banged up. I think Jamar Chase will play. You know what? My thing is, as long as that offensive line is clicking, which it is right now, that Orlando Brown signing is really looking good. And it seems like Joe Burrow is 100% now from the calf injury. I think they'll be fine today. That'll be a good game. That'll be a good game. You see him versus Stroud there. Love that defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. Maybe the best in the game right now. So we'll see how it plays out. But, yeah, he's got a hamstring injury. He's not going to be able to make it, T. Higgins. Great game last week, though. Yeah.
And he's in his contract year, too.
I think so. I want to say so. They're probably going to have to move off of him. I was reading that, speaking of Bryce Young, the Panthers try to go after him and Devontae Adams. Yeah. That's all seems to be Tepper right there, pushing. And the Bears have their first pick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying for Carolina, yes.
Yeah.
They don't get a first round pick and they need people.
Yeah.
They should have traded Brian.
And they got rid of their good receivers. That's what I'm saying. It's crazy. It's crazy
with the Bears as well. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you expect from Kyle Murray playing today, Robert? Russ, is a more expanded question? Will he be there at the end after this year's over?
Yeah. I think this is. We're not real sure what's going to happen there with him with those picks. My guess is from the very beginning is they want to play him and showcase him and trade him because they've also got Houston's pick and they've got their pick as well. Really? Arizona, that Bidwell, I'm not sure that's what I'm thinking. He's thinking right now. I think he'll play well today. They're playing against Atlanta on the road. They're playing in Arizona. Gannon's going to put that offense that Shane Steichen had and him at the Eagles, that type of offense. He's been practicing for weeks now, Kyler Murray. Yeah, so I think he'll play well today. But
and they activated James Conner too, right?
Yeah, they're going to have Conner back. I expect Arizona to win today.
Wow. All right. I didn't know that. Thanks for that. Tom Coughlin, not only coach for the Giants, but he coached for another team, Robert. He's going to be put in that Ring of Honor next year. Yes. Listen, a lot of people don't realize that when they first came in the franchise, Coughlin was a coach, and they played pretty good, Robert.
They played well. He wears thin on play. He's been fired twice from Jacksonville.
Yep.
That's executive. That grinding style, they said he changes every clock in every room. So make sure you're 5 minutes early means, on time. Everybody. And he took out the what did he take out, Jim?
Billiards or pool tables or green room. He did take that out.
You can't block on Sunday. You will not play pool on Monday.
Yeah. You're right. Boy, but he did have a good team in Jacksonville.
Yeah. He was a suit Nazi, guys.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now. I mean, I don't know. With the Giants, he ended up changing up. He had the players. They formed a players committee, and that kind of helped the Giants out a couple of Super Bowls. Where in Jacksonville, he didn't. They were, in fact, if I remember correctly, they were like one of the newer teams when he took over, and he took them to the playoffs. I think even to the championship one year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I want to say they got some upset. I think they upset like Denver or somebody that year in the late 90s.
Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh. Okay. It might have been Carolina to upset.
Yeah.
Remember, both of them came in at the same time.
Yeah, you're right. It was one of them,
Yes.
Denver or
Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So
Mark Brunell.
anyway,
that was an interesting time, you know.
it was, and he was a pretty good left-handed quarterback. In fact, he reminded me of a pocket Steve Young passer, right? You know,
I thought you were going to say a young Jim Jeffcoat.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Jim, I've never seen you play quarterback, and I don't think that would be too nice of a scene to watch. Anyway, Miami Dolphins, are they contenders or pretenders there, Robert? I mean, they haven't beaten a playoff caliber team yet.
You know, guys, I think that they lack physicality. And I've heard Colin Cowherd say this. I like to give him credit. They're like the sports car, great when the weather's great. Now it's starting to get a little icy, a little muddy. They're kind of like that Mustang. You know, they will fishtail in the rain if you take off too fast and don't even think about driving it in the snow. You're really in bad shape. But, you know, they've got Xavier Howard back and Jalen Ramsey. I just think they need to be more physical, man, run the ball more and get used to the change of seat. They haven't really they beat the Chargers. That's somewhat of a good team. But they have lost to the other. I mean, I was surprised they played that bad early on again that Kansas City game last week. 21-0.
Yeah.
Shut out at halftime.
Yeah. And it was a tale of two games. But, you know, the best thing right there was, I mean, I love the analogies today. Byron said they're separating the goats from the sheep, or the billy goats from the rams or something, and you're bringing up cars to represent teams. So that's interesting as it is anyway. But listen, I think Miami's a very good team, and I agree with you. I think the weather's going to hurt them a little bit coming November, December. We'll see what happens there with all that speed. So we got to talk about the Cowboys a little bit. We got the Super Cowboy coming in later, which will be interesting. So we can sound on him a little bit too. Are the Cowboys a worse team than they were last year, Robert?
Yeah, I feel like they've grown since last year. You know, last year, first road playoff win since '93. I like what Mike McCarthy did. It's really coming into fruition from what he wanted that offense to be from what it was last year when Dak was pass happy and Keelan Moore. They're running it more. You kind of wish they would have got a power back in the trade deadline, maybe a Derrick Henry from Tennessee or somebody like that. But I just get a sense that they're more serious about winning compared to those. You know, Romo said this, guys. He said this on the air, that he was calling audibles when Dallas was inside the 5 to get his passing stats up.
Mm.
You know, this is why I said I like them. Just they're the best team since your group, Jim, this particular Cowboy team.
But, Robert, the question to you is, you talk about the passing game. It's more short passes. It's more – their theory now is similar to Green Bay and San Francisco of the past, where they get maybe – if they get 5 yards on first down, they're ahead of the sticks if it's pass. And then he's doing a lot more short passes as opposed to down the field passes.
Less risk passes.
Exactly.
You know,
they're not running.
Had a great game last week, by the way.
Yeah, he did.
And that was at Philly. So I thought it was a good get. You know, I know moral victories and all that, but Philly's a stacked team, guys. I mean, they are absolutely stacked to the rafters with talent.
Yes,
and, you know, the Jets caught a lot of breaks in that game. You know, Lane Johnson went out in that Jet game, like 5 snaps into it. Jets have it, or the Eagles have a losing record without Lane Johnson in.
Wow,
they're like 13-22.
Robert, the Cowboys are one of the worst teams in the red zone.
The worst teams in the red. Well, I mean, you could say that. They replaced Dalton Schultz, but Ferguson's coming along. He's come along good. Now, starting Martavis Bryant, I don't know how that's going to play out. He's not cost that much. I mean, that's something they'll have to address. But I just like it better than the Keelan Moore team. Like you said, taking too many risky throws. I could see it in the Jacksonville game last year.
You're right.
I think they'll beat Philly in Dallas, and I think if they take that game plan, say they're a wild card team up to Philadelphia, I think they have more than a good shot. It reminded me a little bit of the Giants playing the Patriots back in 07. Remember at the end of the season, Mac? Giants, well, it was a close game, moral victory, and the Giants wanted to prove that they could go up there and hang with them. We know what happened in the Super Bowl that year.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, well, I don't know if that's going to be the same or not because I don't know if it's going to be the same. But we got Super Cowboy on here. I'll have more fun with him with a lot. I got a lot of stuff to say about that. You know what I mean? So that that'll be a lot more fun. With this season, right now at a halfway point, Robert, what would be your top 4 or 5 teams? I mean, it changes every week, I think, but but if you had to give me your top 4 or 5 teams, who would you have?
I would put Baltimore blowing people out, lead the league in sacks. Lamar's playing his best foot. I like him better this year than his MVP year. He's getting more balls downfield. He's won me over. That guy, it's just, he's putting the work in, man. So it's hard to go against them. Kansas City with that shutout. They're slowly implementing other receivers into that offense, like Rice and whatnot, Sky Moore, not a lot of big name, Noah Gray, the other tight end. Of course, Philadelphia is probably the most stacked roster there in the league. And I like Cincinnati, guys. I'm telling you, I really like Lou Anarumo and that defense there for Cincinnati and Joe Burrow. Hey, man, back-to-back AFC championship games. And they look better up front offensively than they did last year. They may have some holes in the defense because I know they lost the safety in free agency and Jesse Bates, but those 4 right there, when it comes down the stretch, I see those guys playing well.
Let's welcome into the Philly Sports guy, Jimmy Pax. How you doing this morning, Pax?
I'm doing well. Hey, Jim, it's good to see you. I missed you last week.
Some of us got to work, Pags.
So yeah, I know. I was working really hard. Trying to find you to just say, hey, good game.
You don't have to find me. I'm always here. Don't worry about me. Worry about you.
Hey, it was a good game last week. Beyond anything else, we didn't get a chance to talk.
It's one game.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of time to talk here. Rob,
yeah.
Let me have your thoughts here real quick on everybody's. I want everybody's thoughts on Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, again, he gets suspended for the regular season. Can't go on a sideline. They put in paperwork. What do you think that the ramifications of this could be, Robert?
Guys, it feels like that there's more. The Big Ten didn't want to do this, but there's pressures from other coaches around the league, and there's a little bit of media pressure there. I love Paul Fonbon with ESPN. He said they should have done this, and I just didn't agree. They even turned in documentation that Purdue and Ohio State and another team were spying on them, and their play. This was earlier. We were in an Athletic earlier this week. So now Michigan is trying to file an injunction to get him put back in. It seems like there is it seems like there's somewhat of a witch hunt, and there's an overreaction to it, if you ask me. And maybe he goes back and maybe the Bears take a look at him. I don't know. This thing is really just, we got to let it see it play out and see how this thing goes. I'm not really sure. It keeps taking turns every day.
How many teams
I was talking
do you
to
think
Keith
are
Angler.
actually doing this?
Well, the fact that they've already turned in 3 that we're doing it to them, Jamie.
There's quite a few.
Yeah.
They're doing it. They just haven't.
I got to imagine. I'd be willing to bet that there's probably half of the teams. And there's a lot of college football teams. I'd be even willing to bet there's half of the pro teams. They showed a picture. They showed a picture of one of the coaches, and you could see his sheet clear as day with all the different plays he had on it. Now, how do you use that sheet again after that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, Sean.
After that, how do you ever use that sheet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're using those signals, why don't you change them week to week? Who carries the same signals in?
I'll tell you a story. When we played Buffalo the second time in the Super Bowl, they had their secret play telecast on a TV show. And you think we didn't look at that and know they were going to run this play?
Man,
And that's the truth.
showing their cards.
Well, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm asking this, Robert and Pegs, I asked this to Keith. The Big Ten has three really good programs there. Not Penn State is not as good as Ohio State and Michigan. The SEC is just scooping up the great teams. All the schools, all the schools that are nationally, SEC is scooping up. Don't you think that? Okay, you want to? You're one of your best Big Ten teams. We'll take them.
Yeah. That something that very well may happen with this conference realignment, guys. I mean, I didn't think it would go this far with conference realignment. Oklahoma and Texas will be in the SEC next year.
Yeah, and
I'd love to see Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah, USC and UCLA will be in the Big.
They're in the Big Ten. I'm excited about it. I like it. Most people don't, but a lot of the older crowd. I know Keith hates it, but it's fun. And Nick Saban said, "Listen, let's just go. The power conferences go to the microphone and the helmet thing, like the NFL. I think they can afford it."
Of course. Robert, give us your fantasy team so we can make some money. In fact, I'm not sure what your team's name, but I want you to change it to shake your money maker if you could do that for me.
Yes, ludicrous. All
right.
Yeah, I've got Geno Smith this week. I think they're going to bounce back. Seattle's going to play well against Washington. That secondary give up a lot of passing touchdowns. I've also took DK Metcalf, I think, against that secondary. Washington played on the East Coast. Now they got to go play on the West Coast. Tony Pollard against the Giants this week. David Montgomery, running back for Detroit. He's off a bye week against the Chargers, who played on the East Coast. And Detroit also coming off that bye week. Remember, the Chargers played a Monday night game. Little bit of extra push there. Deebo Samuel, San Francisco, Jacksonville. Can't wait to see that game. Jacksonville they're a little shaky on that back end. Their defense there. DeAndre Hopkins here in Tennessee against Tampa, who got roasted last week against Houston, and C.J. Stroud. Irv Smith, Cincinnati tight end, had a touchdown last week. Houston susceptible to the tight end. Jameis Williams, the Detroit wide receiver, is a very cheap play. This is a week-by-week cap league here. And the Cowboys defense against the Giants, against Danny DeVito's grandson's what I read. No, I just made that last part up. But
I got a question. I've got a question. I'm going to ask about a fantasy here. So I have Pacheco, who's on a bye.
Yeah.
So do I put in Spears from Tennessee or Dalvin Cook, who has been terrible this year, but going up against the Raiders?
Wow. Yeah, Dalvin Cook. I'd have to look at Cook's carries, Jamie. He hasn't. It's really been the Breece Hall show. I would, if you had to, go pick up Spears, but I would.
Well, I have him on my team. We have. It's very. There's not a lot of running backs out there.
There's no waiver wire guys.
No, yeah. Every waiver wire who's got a rating of 6 points or more is gone.
Yeah, I'd go with Spears, man. Maybe a few catches out of the backfield, but hey, that 1 or 2 points may help you win, Jamie. You never know.
Well, I hear that, and the other question is, do you like better Ridley or Evans?
Evans against Tennessee. He's going to get his against Tennessee, but Ridley.
It's Arizona.
Ridley. Now, Ridley's, believe it or not, he's playing San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's either him or Christian Kirk that's going to have the big game.
Mhm.
I'd probably take Evans. Tennessee can't play 2 good games in a row at the set. I know Christian Fulton's playing much better corner right now, but that's Mike Evans, and he's going to get his targets. I'm not in love with Baker Mayfield, but I would probably go with Evans there. Boy, I hope that don't bite me next week, brother. You're going to be mad at me. That's a tough one right there.
I got stuck with Baker Mayfield, too. I'm stuck with him because of course, right now I have Hurts as my quarterback, and my other quarterback was from the Rams. And
Stafford's out, ain't he?
Yeah, so I had to pick up
All right.
Mayfield.
Well, Robert, I want to thank you for coming in as you do every Sunday. We spent a little time on fantasy football, which was interesting this week. Robert, thanks for coming in. Check him out at Sports Scope with a K. All the big stories in sports. Robert, have a great day, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Good
All
show.
right, Robert. Have a good day.
Take care, Robert.
So there you go, Robert Butler. And as I introduced him, Jamie Pags, the Philly sports guy. And Pags, I want to get your picks. We got some other guests rolling in, so I want to get your picks in first. I want to get your top 4, your 3 favorites, and your underdog if you could. He went 4-0 last week, guys.
See? Today, I like the Steelers. I like, I keep wanting to. I have a number. I feel like I have a number of underdogs, but I like the Steelers. I like the Falcons. I like the Seahawks. My underdogs, I'm going to go, this was a tough one. This was a tough one because I like, I kind of like the Texans, but instead I'm going to go with the Jaguars.
Okay, so give me your 3 again. Pitt, Seattle. Who's the other one, Jim?
Pittsburgh, Seattle, and Atlanta over the Cardinals.
Atlanta. And your underdog again? What's your underdog again?
My underdog is the Jaguars with +3.
All right.
Criminals in this world of fear and break the laws that they should fear and frighten all who see or hear. The cry goes up very near for underdog.
There you go, folks. We give you our underdog shirt, Pags. Pags taking the Jags. My underdog this week is, sure I got it right here, is Las Vegas. Jax is the Jags also. Linda is Las. Jim, who is your underdog?
My underdog is Las Vegas also. It's only a -1 for the Jet.
Yes, it is. Well, +1. Right.
And it's in Las Vegas.
And Byron, you got it. Right. Byron, you got an underdog pick for us?
I thought I gave it to you earlier.
Right?
He did. He gave it to us. It was New England.
The Giants. He took the Giants with the points.
I'm going to the game today, Pag, so you know. I'm going to the game.
Hey, listen, tell Sneaky I said hi.
All right, I will. I'm gonna knock that hat off his head. He'll
be the big guy. He'll be the big guy with the Giants jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Pags, of course, you guys got your bye week this week. If I'm not mistaken, won't lose. A little question mark with Dean. What's going on with Dean over there? He seems like he's injured. Is he going to be out for the year? Did you hear anything about that?
I know that he's injured. He's probably going to be out. I'm expecting them, and I don't know if they have or not because I needed the break this week. It's been good to actually just relax for a minute. But I kind of feel that he's going to be on IR. I know that he had a Liz Frank sprain. So and I'm not sure if it's, I don't know how long that takes, but when I hear Liz Frank, it's like, that's like that bone in your foot that's, that it just doesn't heal quickly. So I'm not exactly sure, do you think what will come of that.
Do you think that maybe this will turn out to be a bad draft choice for you? Think that he's a little undersized. I mean, I know he's aggressive.
Yeah,
He was yeah. So you think that maybe this turns out a little bad for you guys with Dean Pags?
It's hard to say. I mean, he was a 3rd-round pick. Everybody was surprised that he was still there when we picked him. He was supposed to be a 2nd-round pick. Obviously, he fell down to the 3rd round. You know what? Truth of the matter is that there's more to the pick than just, okay, he's not performing great. He's part of that Bulldogs defense. There's the camaraderie there amongst the team itself, with all the amount of Georgia guys that we have on our team. So I don't think it's going to turn out to be a bad pick. I mean, when you're picking somebody in the 3rd round, I want to say it's a 50-50 shot at it anyways. Half of these guys work, half of these guys don't work. So I don't know that I would say that it's a bad pick.
All right. So your tight end a little banged up too, Pags, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, he's going to be a little bit more of the problem. He's got that he did that stiff arm and got tackled. I think he broke his arm in some sort. He's going to be out for a few weeks. My expectation is that they'll be able to put a brace on it. I don't know that he'll be able to catch the ball if he does play. I'd expect him out for 3 to 4 weeks.
So coming off you got a week bye. Who you got after that, Pax? Who you guys got after the bye?
Kansas City, here I come.
Yeah, and the rematch of the Super Bowl without Dean, without your tight end. You guys had a rough Super Bowl last year. Does this game mean more to you guys coming up against Kansas City, or does it mean more to Kansas City?
I think it means a little more to Kansas City. I mean, obviously, it's a rematch and a revenge game, if you want to call it that. I think, though, that it's, again, you can't win the Super Bowl playing this game coming up. So, and you have to understand that. Like, I think you want to have a competitive game. You want to make sure that nobody gets hurt, and you want to, you kind of want to stick it to them a little bit. But it's not the worst thing in the world if it doesn't pan out and you lose this game. Losing this game will still make us the number 1 team in the NFC.
True. Byron, you were a former Philadelphia wide receiver for a little bit there. What do you think about their wide receiver combination, right? I mean, Brown is unbelievable. They got the speedy young guy there too. I mean, does that remind you of any of the receivers that you played way back when with the Eagles?
Oh yeah, we had one of the best wide receivers back with Harold Carmichael and Mike Quick. I mean, those guys was awesome. When I was there, and I learned a lot from those guys. I even run with Harold Carmichael for a couple of games, and that's the experience and what they taught you. The consistency and the route running and things like that. So that's what they have now in Philly. They have a combination of just every kind of pass catcher you ever want to see. So it's hard to defend those type of guys as well.
Well, yeah, you got the big
Byron,
guy.
a quick question for you. Just as we were talking about the Eagles and such, obviously we have Julio Jones, and not that I could say Julio Jones could just step in at tight end. However, he is a bigger guy, and it's the tight end position has become more of a monster wide receiver. I feel like in this NFL, is it possible that he could come in that tight end spot a little bit more while Dallas Goedert's out and be any bit effective?
Yeah, no doubt, because of the experience that he have. He can come in and create space and separation and things like that, because he got so much experience. And then that's what you would want, because now you got your tight end position is kind of like a wide receiver, a big wide receiver. So, and he got the experience. So yeah, no doubt, Julio Jones would be excellent. I think he can come in and fill the gap and bring some expertise as well as create openness, for the other receivers. So yes, and that, no doubt.
Yeah, especially I feel like going up against the safety, that would actually be a mismatch in some sense. However, usually the tight end has got to block first before he goes out, and that's what would make me a little bit nervous going up and having those those hit and goes, because he is at an older age, he's a little bit more fragile. So I would rather him not have to do that and them deal with Stoll when it has to deal with blocking. They're blocking tight end for real. But I think that he could be a good fit in this mix while Dallas Goedert's out.
Yeah, and then they can use him in short motion as well, to create that space and to come in, and he could be more like a receiver to come in and kind of create a blocking type, quick blocking type, and then release down the field. So yes, no doubt.
You are definitely losing something as far as the blocking goes between Julio Jones and the big tight end there. I mean, the running game, you would have to have a blocking tight end. I don't think Julio Jones is going to play blocking tight end during the running play. I wouldn't think anyway.
Correct.
He would split out. And that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, but last week against the Cowboys, Philly definitely had the advantage running the ball, but they didn't really concentrate on running the ball. They threw the ball, and you noticed that, because I thought Swift would have a big day, and I thought Gainwell would have a big day. But what happened is obviously A.J. Brown is playing at a MVP level. And as I said, Devontae Smith was an issue, because you can't take A.J. Brown out of the game, but he can also make Devontae Smith can make plays. And that's the problem. You got two, elite receivers, and that's the problem you have. And using Julio Jones as that move guy, he'd be a move guy more than a tight end. He'd be more, you can use him in space and use his big body to take the tight end's routes.
Is that a Super Cowboy?
Agree.
Is that who
Welcome
that
to
is?
the show. Yes.
What's up, Super Cowboy?
Super Cowboy is happening. Yes.
Byron Williams is a big
Super
fan of
Cowboy.
yours.
Super Cowboy on my foot.
Good morning. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning, Super Cowboy. How you doing today?
I'm good.
Super Cowboy reminds me of the Mandalorian. Anybody ever watched it? Know that as the Star Wars thing? Yeah, that's what Super Cowboy. I don't think he can remove that mask at all, except maybe when he's by himself. So,
if you ever watch the old WWF, he reminds me of Mel Mascara. That's the reason.
You know what would make him a Super Cowboy? If he had Jim Jeffcoat autograph on the top of that big shining head of his.
I'll be giving autographs today, Super Cowboy.
So, Super Cowboys, you see the show. This show is kind of a little ridiculous, but we have a lot of insight too. And I wanted to bring you on at first because I enjoy your show. You have a great show over there that I do follow every now and then to check you out and see what you're talking about. Know a lot about the Cowboys, and of course, having you and Jim on, we're doubling up on Cowboys Day, which I don't like because I'm a Giant fan. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, we got two Cowboys, two Giants, and one monster Eagle, baby.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
I don't know.
So Super Cowboy, let's.
I don't know.
He's a regular part of the show.
Great to be on.
Yeah, sorry, because every time there was a nice little meme going out. I think I came out from Super Cowboy where we were in a 3-point stands against each other, and asking who would win that battle. Of course, there were a lot more Cowboys that answered that said that he would win, but we already know who would win.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God! Stand off of the super fans here. Anyway, Super Cowboy. Listen, I wanted to discuss some things with you about the Cowboys. All right, because the Cowboys last year led the league in scoring at this point. They had like 59 points, and they've dropped off to half. They're not putting the ball in the end zone like they did last year. They got rid of their offensive coordinator. A lot of people are happy about that. I don't know if that was a good idea or not, because I don't really think Mike McCarthy is a very inventive kind of offensive coordinator. He's more, we're going to take a little bit at a time. but you're one of the worst teams in the red zones. What do you think's going on down there?
I think it has to do with the offensive line, and also losing somebody like Zeke. I wasn't a big fan of Zeke the last couple of years, but he was a bigger back. I'm trying to figure out myself what's going on in the red zone, because we do have a fullback finally, which I've been asking for. You know what I mean? That old school fullback, like back in the 90s. We have that fullback now, but it's still not working. You know what I mean? So I'm not a big fan of McCarthy either. I wanted to see if it was Kellen Moore that was slowing us down, but apparently it's not. So that's something that we're trying to figure out, and I know they're breaking their heads trying to figure out how to get in that end zone and in the red zone when we get there. So it is a big problem. It's something that we have to fix quickly. We're mid-season now, so they have to figure this out, because there's no slowing down. This offense needs to get going, which it has not, and now the defense also is not going either. So it's if you fix one thing and then another thing breaks. So last week with Steele not able to block anyone, I don't know what's going on with him. Every game is something different. It's a roller coaster, kind of deal. It's a win big and then lose close, and who knows? I mean, everybody. I think they're up, and for this game they're like 18 points favorite. That's just crazy to me that they're 18 points favorite, because you never know with this team. You know what I mean? I think they're going to win, but you never know. You never know.
Showing.
You never know who's going to show up.
Well, here's the thing: is that they're going more West Coast, and that's why you don't see the running game being as effective. Because right now Pollard is not a lead back; he's a change of pace back, and they don't have. And you're right, not having Zeke, a more powerful back, that's really hurting them. That's really the thing. And their offensive line is not playing as well as they have. They played well against teams that should be, but against the elite teams, they struggle. And that's the scary thing. And that's the thing they have to. And on defense, Parson actually played good against Philly. But who else can step up? And especially in the secondary, because that's going to be huge going down, because you still got Tariq Hill, you got Diggs coming up, and some of those guys. And I mean, you got to be able to play against them, or you get run out of the park. And that's the thing, because defensively they got some things. When they can create turnovers, they're in a good place. But so these teams are not the best teams in the league if they let you create a lot of turnovers.
Exactly.
On top of that, you guys have, I think I saw it was like the 22nd strength of schedule in comparison. So that means you have a fairly soft schedule.
Well, we do. Yeah.
At least the next 4 games specifically, but for the rest of the season.
Yeah, but that Buffalo and Miami game is crucial, because that's what tells where we're at, because we play, obviously, one week we play in Buffalo and the next week we go to Miami. Those teams are going to be there. And Washington always plays us tough.
Oh, yeah.
Washington. So we got some tough games down the stretch.
And still another game with the Eagles, it's.
And the Eagles. But that's
so. I mean, even though it's you have to win these games that you are favored by so much.
Yeah,
you have to go out and kind of show a little bit of domination.
Yeah, I told Byron that's 17.5 is a lot, and you very rarely see teams that win by that much when they're expected to win by that much.
And not only that, is it more that the Giants may have quit?
I don't think.
Is that what Vegas is saying there with the 17.5?
I don't think so. I think the injury.
I think with the new quarterback, that's why they probably put the points up like that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking too. When I think about the Cowboys, I never forget about the Cardinals game. That's one game that I can't get out of my head. That means that Dallas is suspect because they let the Cardinals beat them.
I don't know, because you could say sometimes you get up for certain teams and they thought they were going to go there. It's just like what happened with Philadelphia and the Jets. They weren't anticipating them playing that hard, and I think
I
that's
mean,
all.
every team has one of those games where I don't care what
Yeah.
team you are, you're gonna have that
And
one
the
game
coach
you just
coach
get blown
was familiar with the Cowboys. I mean,
Mhm.
let's
Yeah.
get Gannon had been with the Eagles for a couple of years. He knew the Cowboys well,
Yeah.
and all he had to do was get his guys up for that. They got their first win,
Yeah.
their only win, which
Mhm.
it seems
Yeah,
ridiculous now, but
so
Yeah.
Super Cowboy. Let me ask you about the Dak Prescott. Of course, your quarterback. Dallas Cowboys is one of the most popular franchises, sports franchises, period, in the world. You got Dak, um, being a quarterback. A lot of criticism about time management, plays at the end of the game. We saw him run out of bounds against the Eagles. We saw them not spiking the ball with like 40 seconds left and 20 seconds went off the clock down by the end zone. And of course, the wide receiver doesn't go in the end zone and makes the catch in the end zone. He stays outside the end zone, ends up not getting in for the score. So, I mean, I know this happens to every team, right? It happens. They make mistakes, but it seems to happen all at the end of the game to the Cowboys at every important game. Is it time management? Is it McCarthy? Is it Dak Prescott? I mean, what makes it's like almost like a jinx with the Cowboys right now?
Yeah, I think it's an overall thing. I think it's coaching. I think it's the players also. I mean, in that end zone play, that tight end, he needs to know that he needs to get into the end zone before he makes that cut, out. Just not aware where he is. That's where you kind of miss a Jason Witten, where he knew where he's supposed to be, or even a Schultz that is with Houston now.
and that was a rookie mistake. That was a rookie mistake.
Yeah, and that was a
Absolutely.
rookie. That was
Absolutely.
a rookie.
Yes, absolutely. So time management, I mean, it kind of falls on Dak also, you know what I mean? The coaching, but at this point in his career, I think he should be in a different spot where he should know what to do. So that's some of the struggles that he's still having. I'm a Dak fan. I believe he could get us, where we need to be. But he does have those games where it just you kind of scratch your head. You're kind of like, well, what was that? Of course, we're not on the field. Of course, we don't see everything that's going on. But
Sure.
sometimes you kind of think yourself like, what's going on with this? Why would he throw that? Like when he threw that interception, in the end zone with three defenders, I didn't get that against the 49ers. And then he kind of smirks, you know what I mean? Like, why throw that? You don't need to throw that in there. We're down by so much, and I don't understand what's going on.
I think some of it, what you're saying, Super Cowboy, is people don't realize there's only been two quarterbacks for the Dallas Cowboys that have ever won the Super Bowl. Obviously, Roger Staubach and Troy Aikman. That is one of the top 5 quarterbacks that have ever been for the Cowboys. He makes mistakes, yes. But I'd rather have that than a lot of other quarterbacks. And he's going to make mistakes because he's not perfect. But he also, some of his personnel lets him down. In the 49ers game, as you mentioned, you got to remember, they were struggling defensively. They were getting beat up and they were beat down. And he was trying to make plays. And when you do that, you're always going to open yourself to mistakes, in which he had, 3 interceptions that game.
Right.
And his receivers let him down that game. They did not separate from the man coverage. If they would have done what Minnesota had done, they would have beat the 49ers or at least made it a game.
Right. Yeah, that's another thing that we're missing. We're missing a key physical receiver. CD as a number 1. I mean, he had a good game last game, but we don't have that Dez. We don't have that Michael Irvin, powerful, just get off me kind of receiver. I think we're missing something like that.
They thought Gallup was going to be that guy, but
right.
He's not. He's off and on.
He's too small. He's too small.
Yeah, he's still too small, and he's been dropping a lot of passes lately too.
Yeah,
so
he caught after he dropped that one. He caught 2.
Right.
But he's not going to be, and that's why they probably brought in. And Byron could talk more about this. Is Brian? Hopefully that he'd be a bigger physical receiver.
Exactly. That's kind of what we're missing. So yeah, definitely Dak needs help. I mean, he he has the team around him sometimes, and then they just let him down, like you said. They just, they don't come up
and the
and
running
play.
game really was disappointing. They're letting him down because Pollard is not. He doesn't look like he has that burst anymore.
No, he doesn't.
So they did bring in Dez Bryant, didn't they?
No, he brought in Martavius.
Bryant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask this question to you guys, because obviously there was a lot of talk, and trust me, I was at this game. I think it was a very poorly officiated game, but there was a tremendous amount of talk about the officiating in our game, and I mean, I could say that there were bad calls all the way around, but what really could have stood out was in that last drive, you had a delay of game penalty and then a false start penalty that moved you guys back 10 yards. From you. I feel like you got the gift because they did not call the pick play. It was a downfield pick, literally, where the one receiver knocked over two defenders, and you guys were able to get to the 6-yard line. And then, of course, you got the sack, and then you got the two penalties, which kind of pushed you guys back some. But the penalties, I mean, you guys had 10 penalties. We had 10 penalties. There was a lot of penalties in this game all the way around. And it was, and even then, they probably still missed a ton of calls. But there was a lot of talk on how the officials are playing a much bigger part in Cowboys games than Cowboys fans want them to. How much credence do you put to that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. For some reason, I don't know if because I don't watch other games, but they always come out with something that I've never heard of. There's always, I don't know, not in this ego game, but there's always something that I'm like, what? That's even a rule? Like, what are you guys talking about? Never heard of that before. But definitely in this game, I mean, I put out a video out there where myself and my co-host Princess Angie are wrestling one of the refs and stuff. So definitely there was a lot of talk about that, the calls in the game. I mean, I understand football. I played football myself, so I know there's holding and in the line all throughout the game. But some of the holding on Parsons where it's just ridiculous. He's putting his hands up like, come on, guys, and they just don't call it at all. I mean, it's just kind of like what's going on, I don't think it's a Cowboy thing. I just think that some of these games, are just called poorly, and they know it. I mean, the refs go back and look at the film and see what they did or didn't call. So, but yeah, definitely. I mean, you're always trying to find something, what's going on with your team. Why did they lose? And sometimes those things just stand out more than anything because, they will call that at a different game and they're not calling it in this game. And even the commentator said, hey, they're letting them play, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, yeah, they're letting them play, but when you're holding someone's arm when they're running and you don't call it at all, I mean, that's kind of, what's going on,
I think what's happening.
Well, I think the thing is the inconsistency, right? I mean, they'll call it one play, they won't call it another. They'll call it at the end of the game, they won't call it at the beginning of the game. I mean, that's the problem. There's no consistency, and that's gonna it's gonna be like that until they get professional referees that just do this all year and go training and go to films. If they just keep bringing refs in part-time from other jobs, it's going to be like this all the time. It's not going to change. It's not going to change.
Yeah. And I think what happens is I remember playing and coaching with Bill Parcells is he would know the crew by Tuesday. And we would go in on Wednesday and say, okay, this crew calls this more than any other crew, or this is what they have an emphasis on. And you have to know that as a player, and you can know what you can get away with, what you can. I don't know if they do that anymore, but we knew that this refereeing crew was going to call it this way, how they call the game. They called late in the game. That's a part of football. There's going to be missed calls because you don't have enough eyes, and you can't change it, but that's just the reality of it. You can't.
Is it almost time? Is it almost time to get two eye-in-the-sky refs that have communication with the referees on the field that can help explain some of these calls and doing some of these things? I feel like it's time.
I agree.
that it's just there's too many things that are happening
It's too
where
fast. The game has become too fast.
yeah, that you could almost have a digital flag thrown on the field because somebody else sees
something.
it.
You could say that, Mads. You could say that, Jim. You could say that, but how far are you going to slow in a game? Are you going to call a penalty on every play?
No, you're not.
How can you?
The crucial
Yeah,
play. It's just like within 2 minutes.
So you tell me what you tell me, Jim. You tell me what's a crucial play, what's not a crucial play.
So here's the crucial play. All right, here's a good crucial play. The tight end gets touched.
Yes.
Gets touched before he catches the ball slightly.
Yes.
I mean, it was a matter of inches on that ball and milliseconds on the catch. You know, I've seen that so many times this week that how is it that he couldn't, he didn't get called for pass interference because he got tackled beforehand. Truth of the matter, he didn't get tackled. Their feet got tangled up and he started to fall. So everybody thought that he was getting tackled. Either way, normally they would call that pass interference. They didn't call pass interference because it was. That's how quick it was, and you're not going to be able to call that.
Maybe they should do away with instant replay calls. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe they should go back to the old way. Maybe that's the problem because we seem to be discussing the calls more than we do the games now.
Well,
right?
The problem is you're going to rerun. They're going to people in the booth are going to rerun the play and show you what's happening, especially at home.
I understand you, but what I'm saying is, you say that's not crucial. How do you know down the lane that 5 yards or 10 yards doesn't cost you a first down or doesn't cost you a touchdown? You don't know.
And in that case, if there's no instant replay, they call that a touchdown. I mean, they didn't know he was short. You couldn't really tell it in regular playtime. You know what I mean?
Right.
But they review
and they didn't overcall him. And guess what?
They called it a touchdown, and then they reviewed it and realized that he didn't. It wasn't his touchdown.
Well, did you talk about it a couple weeks ago with the Giants and the Jets on plays that you were mad about because the way they were, obviously the refs made mistakes on them.
Right.
It's going to be in every game. It's going to be today.
Yeah.
But they were talking about having former players become refs. They need.
And there are former players that are refs.
Yeah, but they need more younger refs as well.
Yeah.
Or add refs because
that's what I think is to add another ref because the game has become to a sense where you can't see all this.
That's why I think two eye in the sky refs, and I say two, one that governs the offense, one that governs the defense, and that's how that should really. I think it would only help. Not that they need to call penalties, that the penalties still need to be called on the field. They can't throw a digital flag on something that they see, but that they would be able to say, hey, listen, this did not, have anything to do with the play in itself. Why call this penalty here when it has nothing to do with anything and it screws up most of the play? You know what I mean? So I feel like that there's a lot of different things that the NFL should start to look at, and they probably have to vote on these things. And of course, most of the ownership want less refereeing.
Right.
Well, they want less opportunities because they want more scoring because that's the direction we're headed. And a lot of times they let a lot of stuff go that probably were questionable because it's the hardest position to play. And there's an argument about it. I think it's the defensive back.
Yeah, because you was on the defensive side, Jim.
Byron.
No, but it is. But
This is a discussion between. But he's right. But from a defensive standpoint, those defensive backs are in a tough position, and I don't care whose team they play for because and I was going to give you a compliment, Byron. These receivers have become bigger and stronger, and majority of the time, the defensive backs haven't caught up.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Well, that's why they play defense because they can't catch the ball.
They cannot catch the ball
unless you're. Oh my goodness. How do you catch it? How do you cover a guy like DK Metcalf? That is,
you have to put two guys on him. That's the only way to cover him. Two guys.
But you understand what I'm saying? Think about that. Those guys are difficult to cover. obviously we play Seattle in the second half of the season, and you got to have a special game plan when you play against the A.J. Browns, because these are big physical receivers, just like Kyle he said.
I mean, I was
Yeah,
licking my chops every time you guys went man to man with AJ Brown. Like I every time I thought that if you're going to go man to man with him, you're
Yeah,
going to lose that battle.
Yeah, that is true too.
Yeah.
That is true.
So,
I mean, you didn't
so
do the
Super
man to
Cowboy,
man
this
with
is if you want if you want to stick around, Super Cowboy, this is where we start doing our picks. We have Chris should still be coming in about 9:30. We'll see if he makes it, but we cover the rest of our picks. You want to stick around with us, Super Cowboy?
Sure.
Boy?
Yeah, I'll stick around.
Okay.
I don't get to see him that much,
I
but
got
I will
Chris
see you in
in.
December.
Definitely.
Yeah. Super Cowboy is
Folks,
too serious. He
folks.
doesn't have fun.
I'm trying to wake up.
All right, folks. from coffee and sports. That's our morning show here on the Roku channel, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. We have Chris Olmstead coming in. He's the co-host of Coffee and Sports. I know he's a Miami Dolphin fan. So we got a couple teams that we have fun with here, especially I do because I'm a Giant fan and my team stinks. So I got to make fun of somebody to make myself feel good. But anyway, Chris, welcome to the show, Chris. Glad to have you.
Morning, gentlemen. Thank you for having me this morning. I appreciate it.
Good morning, Chris.
Morning.
No problem.
You know, I will have to
Chris
say the
and
Miami
Wolf over
Dolphins
there on
have
Coffee and Sports.
the funniest touchdown song in the NFL.
Hey, it's a 60s throwback. I don't know why they haven't updated it yet, but hey.
I guess they don't have anybody in Miami that has any talent that could change that song.
Listen, we didn't score a lot of touchdowns between like 99 and 2020, so they figured there was no need to update it.
Oh, my goodness.
So, Chris, you know, we've been talking to Super Cowboy here about the Cowboys' problems against in certain times at the end of the game, and they have problems in the game. Let's talk a little bit about Miami now. Miami, of course, I picked them to win the AFC this year. I still
Good
think
choice.
they probably do that, but it seems to me that when they play against teams that have really good defenses and that are playoff caliber teams, they start coming up short. What's going on?
So it's funny because you can shift narratives any way you want to, right? So if you look at Miami, the facts are the facts. They've played 3 good teams this season: Buffalo, Philly, and Kansas City, and they've lost all 3 games. So those are their first 3 biggest tests of the season. They have 3 more at the end of the season: Dallas, Baltimore, and they have Buffalo again. So if you break down the Dolphins' 3 losses, I throw the Bills game out the window. Miami doesn't win in Buffalo. I don't know why. Hasn't happened in like 7 seasons. They usually go to Buffalo. They get their butts kicked every year. That it is what it is. They usually beat Buffalo in Miami. So if they lose to Buffalo in Miami, I'll be a little more concerned. Then you look at your other 2 games. Philly is a better team than Miami is. Philly has a much better defense. And then although Miami can be more explosive offensively, it's just one of those things where you're playing on the road, you're playing in Philly. Philly was the better team that night. But as a Dolphin fan, if you're going to look at me and say, hey, you hung with Philly for 3 quarters, you were tied late in the 3rd quarter, but they beat you in the end, Philly's a Super Bowl contender. I'm not going to be too upset about that. And then you look at the Kansas City game, and Kansas City was a lost opportunity. The Dolphins did absolutely nothing for the first half of that game. Their defense held Kansas City to 14 points. You take away Tyreek's fumble return for a touchdown, it could be a completely different game. So I look at the Kansas City game and I say, if they got anything going in the first half, that could be a different game as well. But guys, at the end of the day, the Dolphins need to beat teams with winning records. They're going to have a couple of shots at who knows, actually take it back. The Jets won't have a winning record when they play. But they got the next 4 or 5 games. They're middle of the road teams. There's nothing crazy in there. The Dolphins are probably going to go 4-1 over their next 5 games. And then it's going to come down to those last 3 games of the season. They're going to have to show at home. They get Dallas at home. They get Baltimore at home. Keep in mind, those 3 big games so far this year were on the road. You know, it is what it is. But they get 2 of the next 3. Actually, no, Baltimore is in Baltimore. They get Buffalo and Dallas at home. So 2 of those next 3 big games are at home. So we'll see. If they lose all 3 of those games, then the narrative is fair. Miami can't beat good teams. they'll probably still make the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. But you're right. The narrative is fair this season. They've struggled against good teams. But at the same time, I take fans who want to say that to me, and I point out teams that have lost to really bad teams. So I would rather struggle a little bit against really good teams and not lose to bad teams, and then try to figure it out as the season goes on. That's kind of where Miami is right now.
Yeah, but didn't this happen last year to Miami, Chris? At the end of the year, they struggled a little bit, and they started off hot. I know the Tua
More
issue.
quarterback play, I think.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah, last year was our quarterback play. Tua was hurt a lot. Then Teddy Two Gloves got hurt. I mean, keep in mind, gentlemen, we went into Buffalo with a third-string quarterback in Skylar Thompson and almost knocked the Bills off in Buffalo in a playoff game. In a game that, and I'll be honest with you, Mike McDaniels outcoached the Buffalo head coach 3 times last season, and Miami lost 2 of those games. One of them was late because Buffalo their offense got the ball last in that game up in Buffalo. They beat them in Miami last year, and Miami just didn't have the weapons or the quarterback to hold on and win last year in the playoffs. But if you look at those 3 coaching performances, Mike McDaniel outcoached Buffalo 3 times.
So
And you know what?
it
Especially with
seems to me
Tyreek Hill,
Tua-
when you see him up close and personal, he really is amazing.
Yeah, and
You know,
Tyreek
it's like
and
I watched him blow past when he was in Philadelphia, and I watched him blow past 2 defenders.
And I hate to take
really is a
I hate
stud.
to take shots at Tyreek, but in that Philly game, keep in mind they were tied, and he dropped a touchdown pass. He had a pass right over the middle. He dropped it. He punted it off his knee.
Yes, he did.
They went for it on 4th down that drive. They didn't get it, and the game stayed tied. And Philly scored the next possession. And then in that Kansas City game, he had a drop going up the sideline. He was a step and a half ahead of the defender, and it hit right off his palms. So, and again, I hate to judge Tyreek because what would we be without him? But those are plays that he's going to make more often than not. But those are those home run plays that we need to hit those. Those are part of our offense. If we're missing the home run balls that are there for the Dolphins to hit, it's going to change the dynamic of the game as well. And in both of our losses outside of the Buffalo butt kicking, we had some home run balls that we missed.
Why not hear more about Waddle?
Chris, let me ask you.
Last year, we heard a lot about
Let me ask
Waddle.
you a
This
question.
year, nothing.
As far
I know I'm a delay here. No, I'm going to delay.
No, you're good. You're good. It's tough with Waddle because so much of the focus is put on Hill. And then you have to look at the emergence of Devon A-Chain this season. Coming into last week, guys, he was a top 10 running back in the league. He only played like 4 games. I think he had 37 carries in those 4 games, and he was the 10th highest rusher in the league coming into week 9. So what he's done in the limited amount of time he's had in the Dolphins offense is absolutely incredible. But he's going to be back after the bye week. Mostert's going to be healthy after the bye week. And then we're still working in Chase Claypool and trying to figure out something with Cedric Wilson. If that wasn't the biggest selling of false goods from Dallas I've ever seen in my life. Cedric Wilson had 1 good season in Dallas, and everyone thought he was going to be something. That was not true. But he's still a talented 3. So I think he was just slightly overrated coming in. But you're right. Waddle does take a back seat. Waddle is a 1 on probably a third of the teams in the league. And he is he's a 2. He's a good 2 in Miami. And it's one of those things where it's great to have that insurance policy. My only issue with Waddle is he's got to stop catching with his chest. He's got to get his hands out there and use those hands.
That's Byron's favorite player on the Dolphins. Wow.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, they want all the time. So Chris, one thing that I want to talk to you about, one more thing about Miami. I mean, they got a high-powered offense. A lot of people say it's like the Rams were. The one problem the Rams had was they were not physical. They were not a very physical team. They burn you, they beat you. But when they went up against a physical team like the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl there, this is when they fell. Does Miami have to get more physical to win this? To win the thing?
Miami, that's where the defense needs to come in. If you look at the history of the Vic Fangio defenses, they get better as the season goes along, and that's what you're seeing in Miami right now. Not only is the defense slowly getting better, it's slowly getting healthier. So Jalen Ramsey came back their last game. It's the first time you saw Jalen and Howard on the field at the same time. Their slot cornerback, Nick Needham, he finally played for the first time this season. They're getting healthier at linebacker. And I think it's one of those situations. The offense isn't going to be a smash mouth offense. That's not what they're built to be. They're built to be fast. They're built to be a track team. And they're not going to change that identity on offense. So what's going to happen for the Dolphins to have success against these better teams late in the season and to have success in the playoffs is that smash mouth tone is going to have to be set with the defense. The defense is going to have to put the Dolphins in positions on offense to make scoring easier. And if the defense can't do that, you're right. Miami's going to struggle against really aggressive smash mouth teams because they're never going to be that on offense the way their offense is currently comprised. So that is a concern for Dolphin fans as we head further into the season. But there is some hope, a silver lining, if you will. Holding Kansas City to 14 points, it's a big deal. Their last 3 games, the Dolphins defense has looked a lot better than their first 5 or 6 games. So we'll see if that whole Vic Fangio, it rounds out as the season goes along thing holds true for Miami, but it seems to be on the right path as the defense gets healthier and Fangio gets a little bit later into the season.
All right. Okay. So late in the season, November, December, it would be good for Miami to get that home advantage down there in Miami. Jim's played there. It's not easy playing with all that humidity down there. But in the event that they play a Baltimore North, or they play say a Pittsburgh or Cincinnati, any of those teams, speed isn't going to be one of the things that's an advantage in the coldness, Chris. So Miami does have a running game this year, and it is pretty good. I mean, they got 2 backs that run really well. You think you could win with that running game going into these places?
Well, gentlemen, I'll give you that snow will slow down speed, but the coldness doesn't necessarily slow down speed. Fast is fast, and fast looks fast whether it's 90 degrees outside or it's 20 degrees outside. Coldness isn't slowing down Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is going to blow by it no matter what the temperature is outside.
But hits will.
Yes.
Hits will stop him, slow him down, and make him nervous. And that's what happens. That's why we had to get rid of Sanders for the Eagles as a running back last year. And I actually, if I had to go back in time, I would not have gotten rid of Mostert. And because he's been doing really well for you guys. He was just a practice squad that you guys just plucked out of off of us.
Mm-hmm.
So and has been great. But that's what happens. In the cold weather, you are smaller guys. They get hit a little bit. All of a sudden, they start to tiptoe a little bit, and they don't want to get hit.
No, I totally agree. And if you look at, and this has always been the narrative with Miami. Miami is a warm weather team. But if you look at what Miami did last year in the playoff game in Buffalo and the late regular season game in Buffalo, where it snowed, those are 2 games where Tua proved. Well, Tua proved in the first game. He didn't play in the second one. But in that regular season game, Tua proved with the offense, they can go up there. They can hang out with Buffalo. They can put up almost 30 points. And it's one of those things where that needed to happen. Win, lose, or draw, we needed to see Tua go to a cold weather game that mattered against a good team and play well. And he did. And then you saw the run game play well in the playoffs against Buffalo, again, in a cold weather game that mattered. So I think they have the pieces in the run game. And I think I'm not overly concerned about Tua when it comes to the cold weather. But again, the offense as a whole is a finesse offense. If you're playing a smash mouth defense that's going to get Tua off his mark, that's going to rough up Hill and Waddle off the line of scrimmage, they're going to have to overcome that. Miami has a very timing-based, accurate offense. If you are going to throw things at them that throw off their comfort level, they're going to have to find ways to overcome on the fly. And that's the one part of the Dolphins offense that we haven't seen as much progression in as I want to. Now, we saw last week, Kansas City was very physical in the first half. Miami didn't score. They adjusted well in the second half, but Miami still had 2 shots at the end of the game to make it happen, to tie that game up, and they couldn't do it. So we've seen decent halftime adjustments against physical teams, but we haven't seen it to the point where I'm comfortable enough saying, yeah, I would take Miami as an underdog on the road in a cold weather game against a good team, because they have to prove they can do that time and time again, and they're not there yet. It doesn't mean they're not capable of it. The ceiling is there, but at some point we have to stop talking about what the ceiling is and what the actual results are. So Miami still has plenty to prove. And as a Dolphin fan and seeing how Mike McDaniel coaches that team, I'm okay being in that role. I'm okay being in the role of, we still have a chip on our shoulder. We still have something to prove. I'd rather Miami be coming from that stance as opposed to coming from the favorite stance, because I don't like what I've seen from them in previous years as the favorite.
Great points. Great points. Chris, we normally do the picks and the rest of us. We already did our top three and our underdog, but we go through the teams. You want to stick around and go through some of these picks with us?
Yeah,
so we
let's
have
go
Super
through 'em,
Cowboy,
guys.
Chris. All right, let's do this. So we're going to start off with the Indianapolis Colts at New England. Indianapolis getting
New England's
1.5.
up 3-0.
Of course, they're in Germany. There you go. Anybody? Does anybody here think it's going to win this game? That's my first question. Can New England beat the Indianapolis Colts? What do you think, Jim?
Yes. Patriots I'm with Byron on this one. I think the Patriots will win it.
Yeah, me too.
I said the Patriots are gonna win. This is because I think Belichick will have a better second half.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
He doesn't
much of a worse one. I'll tell you that.
Job.
Yes. So, Chris, who you got here in this next game? In New England, you think Colts pull it out?
I'm taking the Colts. I think that Mac Jones crumbles down the end, and I think we're going to find out if Billy's job is truly on the line. I don't think it is. Guys, I don't know why Germany against the Colts would be the turning point for Bill Belichick in his tenure as the Patriots head coach. I don't know where those rumors are coming from or why the Germany game is so important, but I think the Colts pull it out in the end.
You Super
They're 2-7.
Cowboy.
I don't think going 3-7 is going to make a difference.
No, I think the Patriots are going to probably pull this one off. They haven't been doing that great. I think Belichick is going to change it up in the second half, and I think they'll pull this one off against the Colts and kind of put those rumors to rest for a little bit.
All right. So the next game we got coming up is Houston at Cincinnati. You have almost maybe both of the receivers might be out. We know and Lamar Chase, I guess, was a game time decision. We'll find out. So, Jim, if you were to pick an upset today, could Houston upset the Cincinnati Bengals?
Of course they could, because of the way Stroud is playing. And
will they?
I don't think they will. I think that Cincinnati will win this game, but this will be a hard-fought game because Houston is, if anything else, is a well-coached team, and they're getting better. And that's the thing. But Houston had a lot of injuries this week. They had something like 24 players that were questionable. So I'm going to go with Cincinnati. I think Burrows is rounded off, and Burrows is a franchise quarterback.
I think Cincinnati
Byron,
is
who
a
do you
team
got?
to beat. I think Cincinnati gonna be tough to beat. They play well at home, and I just think right now Burrow is on. He's on fire. He's on target.
Houston with C.J. Stroud have an unbelievable year. What do you think is going to happen there? Do you think that he can that Houston? I don't know. I think Houston has a shot. I think they upset. I think they're going to upset Cincinnati today.
Wow.
I don't think they win outright. I think that with the points, that's why I couldn't pick this in my thing. I think with the points, it'll stay close. I think that's what Houston's coach does. He keeps them in games, and then allows his players to win it if they can. This is a young team. They've got a young nucleus. They're going to be something formidable here in the next 2 years when the coach figures everything out and the players start to figure it all out. But C.J. Stroud was a great pick for them, and I think that they have a bright future. I don't know that their future starts this year. I don't think they make it to the playoffs, but I think that C.J. Stroud has, so far, 10 weeks in, has proven that he is the NFL Rookie of the Year.
I would agree with that. Chris, I would imagine you would. I would imagine you go with Cincinnati too. I like Houston's defense. I think without Lamar Chase, or even Lamar Chase banged up, they're going to have to run the ball a little bit more. Houston's got a real good young defense, and they got a pretty good running back on the other side of that ball too.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Houston fan, those are all the things you're thinking coming into this game. Unfortunately, you're playing against a healthy Joe Burrow and a much better Cincinnati Bengals team. And that's okay. It's okay because what Houston has accomplished this season, you can't take that away from them. But unfortunately, I think this is going to be a little bit of a resetting of expectations for Houston fans coming into today because you feel good. You've won some games that people didn't think you were going to win. You've had a couple of upsets, but you're not at the Bengals level yet, and that's okay. So I think it's going to be close for a little bit, but I think the Bengals are going to win going away, even a beat-up Bengals squad. And I think Houston's going to come out of this feeling okay about themselves, but realizing that maybe they're not quite where they think they are.
Super Cowboy, do the Dallas Cowboy fans, how do they feel about the Houston Texans? Do they like them? Are they, is it like your second team little brother? I mean, what kind of relationship?
There's definitely a rivalry, but I think it's on the Houston side. They're the ones always talking smack about the Cowboys, but they ain't have nothing to talk smack about.
Hold on, the Cowboys haven't beaten the Texans, right?
We beat them last year. It was a close game, but we beat them last year.
Sure. I thought for the first time, maybe. Because so far, Houston's won that rivalry.
They've had our number in a couple of games, but last year was one of those where we thought, I think they didn't even know what quarterback they were going to start. And like today, that's what I'm saying. That reminds me of the game today with the Giants. I mean, Houston didn't even know who they were going to start at quarterback. I think they switched quarterbacks at halftime last year, and it took a fumble or interception towards the end of the game for us to even win that game against Houston. So the rivalry definitely is big in Dallas here with them, but
it always is going to be right because of baseball. Rivalry between obviously the Astros and the Rangers are the same way. So
exactly. So there's a big rivalry.
Basketball too.
Yeah, exactly. But I think Houston, they're getting better. They're getting their players there. I think the Bengals are just a more better team than Houston. So I think the Bengals will take this game. It might be a game. Houston might make it a game. But just the Bengals are too much, and I have Joe Burrow on my fantasy, so I'm hoping for him to have a big game against Houston.
Really, to me, one of the most interesting games today because of a quarterback that just arrived last week and probably put on one of the most exciting shows a quarterback ever has coming to play for another team, Josh Dobbs. New Orleans is going into Minnesota. For some reason, New Orleans is favored. I know New Orleans is a very good team as far as in the South goes. They're a good team as far as the South. Josh Dobbs, moved his family or his things up to Minnesota. He's taking care of everything. He was there late night studying the playbook, Jim. Josh Dobbs, are they going to beat the New Orleans Saints today?
I don't think so. I think I'm not a big New Orleans fan, but you never bet against Dobbs. That's another one of Byron's favorite guys. The guy was what was he? Rocket scientist. He was a rocket scientist, and he figures out a way. But he didn't do it. He won one game against the Cowboys in Arizona, and that was it. I'm going to go with the Saints.
I'm going with the Vikings because this is the Vikings alumni weekend. All the old Vikings are up there. I got a call yesterday from the Vikings, and they're having a big party. So anytime you have the alumni being there for the weekend, usually that team wins. So it happened earlier this year with a couple other teams that I know had alumni like the Raiders and stuff. So I take the Vikings.
Shoot, so they're gonna bring back the purple people eaters?
Well, they there. They there this weekend. I can tell you that now.
That's right. Right. Pags, what do you think, Pags? Do you think Dobbs? I mean, listen, you got to be happy for the guy. He's been a journeyman. There are few times that something like this happens back where he ends up, leading the team into the playoffs or leading them even farther. Do you think that the Minnesota Vikings can not only beat the Saints, but they have a few games here that they can win that are winnable? Might get them back in the playoff race. What happens today, Pags?
I think, this is going to sound ridiculous because we always are talking about how Kirk Cousins is a coach killer. Dobbs might save the coach's job. I know it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's and it's going to rely a lot on the defense. Let's face it. Dobbs is not going to be one playing the part on this. The defense has really got to be able to step up. As long as Jefferson's out, they're still going to be struggling on offense. But once he comes back, things will be a lot different for him. He will be able to make those plays. But I think that you're going to see that they're going to be able to make a run because that North is not so strong. Even with Detroit only having 2 losses, it's not the strongest of divisions there. They have an easier schedule, and I think that there's a chance that the coach could wind up saving his job just because of Cousins being out.
Chris, what do you think? I heard you guys talk about it too. Probably this year anyway, one of the most exciting comebacks and plays by a quarterback. Kind of maybe reminds you of Baker a little bit with the Rams that one time near the end of the year. What do you think? Do you think Minnesota is going to be a challenger for that North Division title against Detroit?
Oh, 100%. Mo and I are completely on the Dobbs train. And gentlemen, look at the next 4 games, including today on their schedule. They got the Saints today, then they play Denver, then they play Chicago, then they play the Raiders. Those are 4 extremely winnable games for a team that 3 or 4 weeks ago with Kirk Cousins you thought was dead in the water. And then they find their mojo. They get back to 500. They lose Kirk for the season, which is a gut punch. Dobbs comes out of nowhere. He's there for 2.5 days, doesn't know the name of his receivers, leads them to a victory. This team is believing in themselves right now, but more importantly, they're believing in themselves against teams they can actually beat on paper. Teams that in some cases they might actually be better than talent-wise. I'm not saying the Saints are going to be an easy game, but when you have all of that going in your favor and you're playing against a Saints team that has been up and down this season, that at times the offense has looked absolutely terrible, and as a Dolphin fan, I hate to say this, but props to Brian Flores and his defense that he's playing in Minnesota right now. He's got them playing well, and he's doing a lot of things with that defense that I think is going to help this team down the stretch, especially against the 4 teams that I just mentioned. So not only do I think they're going to win today, I think they could run the table for these next 4 games and set up a make it or break it performance at the end when they play the Lions and they play the Bengals and they play some more challenging teams. But this could easily be a 10-win team if they just take care of the business they should take care of.
Wow.
Super Cowboy, real quick, because we got to get out of here. Time's running out. What do you think? Does the Minnesota Vikings challenge Detroit for that first division?
I think so. They have a really good team. Minnesota does. They're at home, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they're at home. So when you hear that horn going, it's it gets you going. So they have a good team. Dobbs, it still stings that he got us in Arizona and now he's in Minnesota. So I think they're going to rally this team together around him, like Chris says here. And I think they will go on a little run. They have a decent team. They have a good team. And I think it keeps going. The Saints, they're up and down, so you never know where you're going to get with them. But Minnesota, the last couple of seasons, has a really good team, and I think they will go on a little run here in the next couple of games.
And gentlemen, let's not forget what the NFL did to these 2 teams. The Lions and the Vikings play twice over the final 3 weeks of the season. They play the final week, and they play 2 games before that. As long as Minnesota is within 2 games of Detroit going into that third to last week, it's all set up. They just got to beat Detroit twice. So it's going to be crazy for this division in particular because
true.
of the fact that they play each other 2 out of 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor touchdown.
Well,
7-3
I gotta
Colts.
get this thing ended. I gotta get this thing ended, Pat. We gotta get out of here. Thanks to Chris. Thanks to Super Cowboy. All the guests coming in. Everybody have a great day.